Hey everyone. Um, Today I want to talk about getting tested, and it's gonna be Wednesday tomorrow in a few hours. And now it's gonna be Wednesday already. And last Wednesday I was getting ready to head over to work when my sister gives me a call. She's like, "Hey, have you talked to mom?" I'm like, "No. Why? What's up?" And she's like, "Oh, she's at the doctor's. Apparently she found a lump in her breast about the size of a finger, and that she had been sneezing out blood." I was like, "What? How long ago did she find the lump?" She was like, "Oh, 4 months ago." And I was like, "What?" And she's barely going to the doctor's. And so I text my mom, like, "Give me a call once you get out of the doctor's." And so I talked to my mom, and she's like, "Yeah, I found it 4 months ago. And, I talked to your sister, and she got mad because I waited for so long. And, but then again, your sister hasn't had a physical in, like, a few years." I was like, "Okay, but that didn't explain. It didn't make sense to me, especially her. Like she would always be on top of us, like go to the doctor at least once a year, get a physical. And growing up, she always took us to the doctors. I mean, she had a mammogram done in March, and so I went over to the weekend to visit my family, and I was talking to my mom, and she was like, "Well, you're afraid of hearing something you don't want to hear." She was like, in her mind, she thought she had cancer. Now, that day, Wednesday, the day before she called to make an appointment, they give her the next day an appointment. They run the blood test and everything. And the next day, she saw two specialists. And it was very painful for her, and the pain was going up to her under her armpit. And so the specialist and the doctor said, like, "Well, we're not too worried because usually when it's painful, it's not cancer." And they told her maybe the fact that she was sneezing out blood is because she had the heater on. Maybe that's what it was. And they still did a blood work, and I reviewed the results with her over the weekend, and everything's fine. Like her, no diabetes, um, no cholesterol. Her blood levels are normal, but she will have a biopsy coming up next month on the 17th. So we're all praying that it comes out negative, that it's just like they said, maybe like fat or fibrosis or something there. And and it's funny because we all have insurance, we all have health insurance, and even for me, like it's been over a year and a half since I've had a physical. And it's scary to get tested about certain things. Like you're afraid. Like I get where she was coming from, but it's always better to know. It's always better to go in and get it over with. If it is, then especially like a 4 month wait, that's a big difference from stage one, stage two, stage three, stage four. Early detection, as I say, is always the best thing, no matter what it is. If it's cancer, if it's like people are embarrassed. Like I know, like my dad hasn't gotten his prostate check, or there's also the uh, when they do the colonoscopy. It's intrusive. You have to prepare the night before, but after a certain age, it's a good idea to get it done. People do die of colon cancer. People do die. Like I always say, get your mammograms, get your just test the testicular cancer check. These are things you do by yourself, and then you find anything, you find a lump, then you go to your doctors. And even then, when you go to your doctors, you have to fight for your own health. I remember telling my mom, like, you need to ask for a biopsy. No matter what they tell you, you need to get a biopsy. Because I've heard stories, and even her friend who is currently fighting cancer, like, she had a fight to get a biopsy. Because they will tell her just that, like, oh, it's just fat tissue. It's nothing to worry about. When it is something, and the longer you wait it off and don't fight for yourself, it can develop into worse stages, which is harder to fight. And so, like I said, I've gone to doctors and I have good doctors, but mostly, unfortunately, I had bad doctors. Where they don't even look at you when you're in there. They're in a rush. They're so absent-minded. And one of the ladies I know, she's an old friend of mine. She'll tell me like, tell them I'm gonna step on your foot if you don't look at me. And you have to make something where they notice you, where they remember you, where you do have to stand out, unfortunately. And if you notice anything bad about you, it's like I had doctors tell me this, like when I go like, oh, well, my back was hurting. I want to find out what it is. I mean, I was like, do you really? They were like, do you really want to get tested? Do you want to go through the X-ray? Or I was like, yes, I want to know what's wrong with me. And um, I don't know. It was like they just, for whatever reason, they're not. They're anti-testing. I don't know. My experience, at least my experience. There are good doctors. I've had good doctors in the past that will try to get me tested for everything, and I'm like, whoa, I'm okay. So you know what I mean. Every experience is different, but if you do have a doctor, find another doctor that will be um, an advocate for your own health. When you're nervous to do it, and you have a doctor discouraging you to do it, it's hard. So I'm just saying, get tested for anything, everything, anything, everything.